Welcome back to Paddy Power Poker and the Sit and Go Strategy video series. As we move to the bubble play, the biggest weapon all players have at this stage is the threat of taking another player out of the money. In that sense, stack sizes are even more important now than profiling your opponents because whether you are a big or a short stack, your inherent playing style must change now to become a successful sit and go player. Short stacks and big stacks will be playing a wider range of hands, and medium stacks will generally be trying to avoid situations. So it's also important to know which of these players are yet to act behind you in every hand. So like I was saying in the last video, the player here is now too short of a stack to threaten the survival of the remaining players. So whenever he gets a decent hand to shove with, he's likely going to get called. Now, even if he is ahead in the hand, anybody else is going to have the odds to call him, like in this situation, where I am holding Queen 9 offsuit in the big blind, and everyone folds to the small stack shove. But look at this, I only have to call 500 into a 1250 pot, which means I'm getting 2.5 to 1 pot odds to make this call. With those odds and the minimal risk it will have to my stack, I should make this call holding virtually any two cards. Queen 9 offsuit definitely qualifies, so I do make the call, and look at that. I eliminate the small stack. Now, a player like that is probably just cursing himself at home right now that he didn't do better, and who knows, his hand was probably better than mine to start. I didn't even bother to check. His problem was that he waited too long in the game to get aggressive. Alright then, next hand. So now we are on the bubble, which means that the next player eliminated is going to be out of the money, and everyone else will make the money. 6-3 suited, I could raise here, but since everyone just saw me make a couple of questionable plays, I decide to fold because I don't really want to play a flop with this hand. But this is a potential raising situation. Now here, with ace-8 in the small blind, I decide to raise the big blind here, assuming that I have the best starting hand. If you remember earlier, I have been taking a few of his big blinds, and this hand is strong enough to continue that strategy. However, he actually flat calls my pre-flop in this situation. The flop completely misses me, so you know what? I decide to simply check the flop, since he did flat call me. Now, because of that, I figure I may very well be behind, and I don't want to play for a big pot in this hand against this player. He bets out, but it's only a quarter of the pot. That's still enough for me, even though it looks like a weak bet, and there's a slight chance I may still be ahead in this hand. Unlike the scenario earlier in the game when I re-raised all in with a paired 3 on the board, I am not short stack anymore, and I also recognize that some of my opponents might be making some critical errors that I can take advantage of later on. So I'm just going to fold this and cut my losses in this hand and wait for a better opportunity. In this hand, the short stack shoves all in, making the pot 28-15, and I have 2,065 to call. Those are not good pot odds to call with this weak hand, so I will simply give that up. Even if my opponent is pushing with any two cards, which he really should be, those any two cards are very likely better than my 9-4. With hands like this, I want to be the one betting or stealing, but certainly not calling knowing I'm behind. This is a clear fold. A couple of hands later, that same opponent pushes all in with his pocket queens and gets called from the big blind holding ace-9 offsuit. Both players make a good play here, and the ace-9 was fortunate to win this hand, yes. The player holding ace-9 could have very well been thinking what I was thinking, that this opponent could really be pushing with any two cards, and ace-9 is definitely a calling hand in that situation. So the short stack in the big blind actually doubled up here, and that means we're still four-handed. However, then comes this hand with ace-king on the button here. I decide to make a pre-flop raise, and I get called by the small blind yet again. This time, I was prepared to play a bigger pot with him in this hand because I really had something. However, before we could get to that, the big blind decided to re-raise all in. Now, since the small blind just flat called me, I don't believe he is going to call this re-raise. So now, I am solely concerned about the big blind and his shove. So I should re-raise all in here to make sure this opponent gets out of the hand. Even though my opponent is likely to have a pair, which is ahead of my ace-king, I am also of the opinion that he may very well be trying to steal a pot here, since he has witnessed myself and this other player playing moderate strength hands. In fact, he could be attempting a squeeze play here with weaker hands than mine. With ace-king, there is never a reason to not play this hand in this situation in a sit-and-go tournament. Therefore, I re-raise all in. The small blind folds, and the big blind reveals the king-queen offsuit, and I'm in a very good position as I have him dominated. There, I win a huge pot, and the remaining players are in the money now. Note that my opponent with the king-queen offsuit did make a bold move, which was not a mistake in my opinion. He had a good chance of getting both of his opponents to fold out of the pot and take it down pre-flop, and also even winning from behind in case he was called. It just simply didn't work out for him that way this time, but I have no problem with his aggressive play there. Well, those are some hands that I played on the bubble in this tournament. Remember, these are high-risk situations which aren't always going to work out like they did for me here. The idea behind playing around the bubble is to consistently make profitable decisions no matter what the outcome is. When you have 3 or 4 of these tables going on at the same time, some of these unfortunate situations are just not going to bother you as much, as long as you understand that you did not make a mistake. Even though the poker gods are going to decide the outcome in any one situation, profitable play turns into real dollar, long-term profit, and the result is that you are going to start adding to your poker bankroll. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next sit and go video at PattyPowerPoker.com.